Welcome everyone, welcome to Tehila with the Holy Ghost. I'm sure by now you know what we are about, and this is our very first episode, and I'm so excited to be doing this because anything that's the Lord's work brings us joy and satisfaction. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. When I'm talking about special, very special guest, she's my very own mentor, one who the Lord has put in my life, and it has been, or she has been a great blessing to me. Help me welcome Ma Idara Obon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for honoring my invitation. It's such a pleasure. Thank you very much, Ma. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about in the waiting. What does this mean? It means what to be done while waiting, or what waiting even entails. So that will take us to our very first question, and that will be, what does it mean to wait? What's the word waiting in the context of believers? Not what does it mean for a believer to wait?
To wait, alright. So waiting in the context of this conversation is simply a season between when the Lord gives you a word over your life and when it comes to pass. So you receive a prophecy, you see something in the word that you're holding on to, and you're expecting it to be fulfilled. There's sometimes a time frame between that time and when it gets fulfilled. That's what waiting is in very simple terms. Yeah,
that's very important, because before we dive into other aspects of this, we have to know what we are talking about, because if we just say waiting, people may not really understand what it is, because if they go and check the dictionary, it may not really make sense. So that's why we needed to clear that. So the next question would be, why does God ask us to wait? He's supreme. I mean, he can make things happen in the snap of a finger. So why do we have to wait? I mean, we are God's children, because usually when people give their lives to Christ, they have this mindset that everything goes smoothly and the Lord shouts. So why do I have to wait when my mates are going? So why do that?
All right, why do we have to wait? I want to pick up from the thoughts that you left off. God is supreme, God is sovereign, right? And that means that he has everything in his control, right? And so even before answering that question, I think that one of the things that I would like to ask anyone who is in that place of why do I even have to wait is, do you trust God? Do you trust God with your life? Do you trust that God knows what he's doing with your life? Because that question is what now leads to every other thing. All right, so why does God have us wait? First of all, we don't have like one particular answer to it. Why? Simply because everybody's journey is unique. And then God is looking from his perspective and saying, hey, I need this person to do this or to become this in this season. But I'm going to give like three answers, I think, three things that could warrant God asking a person to wait. Number one, God may ask you to wait if you are not ready to fulfill the destiny that he's calling you to. Right, so I remember being in the waiting season some time back, and it just seemed like it was taking so long, and sometimes I was crying out to God like, what's going on? And God said, you're still a raw material for where I'm taking you to. And I was like, I thought they said, and what was crazy about it was I had been on the journey with God for a while, so I had thought that we are now blessed people. They also gave me a fresh perspective, because I was like, okay, that means that from God's view, as he's seeing it, there's still quite a lot of work to do. And so when you're not ready for that, God starts to build in you certain things. So character is built in, your conviction is strengthened. If you were someone that for every little thing that happens, you're just swayed, you may just find that by the time God is done with you, you're so solid.
Yes,
I think this is important, because when God calls us, sometimes it's either there's persecution attached to the call, or there is recognition that comes with temptation.
I think most recognitions actually come with
temptation. Exactly. So if you have not been trained to be solid, to be grounded in that, a lot can go wrong. a lot can go wrong. The second thing I would say is that God also, and this is closely tied to the first, God trains in us the character and the desires of Christ. He built it into us, right? And so you that when you were receiving the prophecy, you were feeling like, yes, I'm going to be popular.
You compare your prophetic work to
exactly. And then God is like, no, there's more. It's deeper than that. It's really not about the assignment and all of that. Beyond that, it's about me. And so the character of Christ, the desire of Christ is built in you, is strengthening you in that moment. And the third thing I'm going to say is God can make you go through that season because He needs you to be healed.
Yeah.
He needs you to be healed. He needs you to be whole. He needs you to be the kind of person that can carry out that vision. Because you see, a person that is not healed would bastardize the vision, for lack of a better word, right? Would really shut down the visions of God. And so it's important that you go through your healing journey. Let God strip you bare. Let God heal you. Let Him clothe you with a garment of joy, of strength, of courage, and all of that. Just to say, all in this season, many things could happen at the same time, right? But whatever it is, ensure that you're sitting with God to say, what do I need to learn in this season? What do I need to do? What is my curriculum in this time? And yeah.
That's actually really beautiful because, like you rightly said, you have to heal. Because if you don't, one thing with people who are not believers, they always look for the slightest thing to actually condemn believers.
Yep.
The slightest is, you hear people say things like, this one where they go church. And actually be like, even for fellow believers, there are so many believers that are actually not mature. And it's not everybody that's going to ask you about what happened to you that you are behaving like this. Everybody's going to like just judge you on face value. So it's very important, like you said when you were explaining what waiting is, you said that it's
the season between.
Yes, it's the season between God's promise and. So our next question is going to be, what are the things we are going to do? What are the things we are supposed to do while waiting? Because it's one thing to know why we wait and what waiting is, but what are the things we're supposed to do?
Okay, so like I said earlier, it's very important to ask God what you should do while waiting, simply because everybody has a unique journey, right? So what the Lord might tell one person might not be what He'll tell the next person, and so you have to ask the Lord, okay, what is the curriculum for this season? What am I to do? And you see, it's very interesting because God has different things for different people. Which, by the way, I must say, never compare your journey with the next person. It's the easiest way to heart attack. Like, so you just sit down with God and just say, okay, Lord, what do I need to do? For one person, the Lord can say, I need you 9 p.m. to 12 midnight praying, and then I need you studying for 2 hours daily, and this is what I need you to study. For another person, the Lord is saying, go and intern with this particular company. I know I said I'm going to make you wealthy, but I need you to learn how to navigate, and so you go to that company to intern. And it may not be the easiest career journey you might have, but you're going to learn what you need to learn. For someone else, the Lord could just say, I need you to go and learn this particular skill that you feel like you are totally incapable of doing, but there's a reason why. And so you need to sit with the Lord per time. Someone else, the Lord is going to say, you know what, step back, there's a healing journey I need you to, so read these books, journal, be with me, spend a lot of time in worship and all of that, because if that is not done, you would find that the healing has not happened. And so every single person has to, in short, what I advise is, after you finish rejoicing over a prophecy, go and sit down with God and say, what's the way to the fulfillment of this prophecy? What happens most times is people just rejoice and that's it. They're like, it's coming to pass. No. I would even like to say this categorically. The waiting season is also part of the warfare with prophecy that you do.
Yeah.
Because beyond prayer and saying, no, Lord, you said this, it has to come to pass. You partnering with God in that time to build yourself, to become who you need to be, is also fighting the war to ensure you become. Because what the devil simply wants is for you to not attain that destination. So, yeah.
Because it's one thing for you to know God's plans for you, and it's another thing to do it well, because the devil is not really scared that you know.
Exactly.
Because you know that a lot of believers are actually lazy. Some of us have actually been there.
True.
That you have, because there are things that you were supposed to have done a long time, but because of laziness and not really following God through,
Very true.
it actually takes a longer time.
Very true.
So it's very important that we know what to do while we're waiting. I know that because of you talking, you have already answered this, but I'll still ask the very last question.
Okay.
So when we wait, what do we expect after this season and this period? Because as human beings, many times we have to know why, and we know what we have to know what to expect.
Yeah. You see, what is on God's mind, and I think many people don't realize this, is God is your reward.
Yeah.
I know you were told that yes, you're called to the nations, and the world is going to know your name, and your generation will be wealthy forever, and all of that. And that's great, and that's super important. But God is your reward.
Yeah.
And that's like the end of every waiting season. Would you attain your assignment and the destiny God has called you to? Yes. But if you attain it, and God is still not your reward, there's a problem.
Yes.
And so what happens in that is a very high level of consecration is born, where your heart is tender towards God. Your heart is circumcised even more. Your heart is burning for God. You get to a point where you're unshaken, fully rooted in God, burning for His glory, away from the temptation of the devil and of man, to pull you into a place of, how do I put it, a place of darkness and all of that. If you are able to get to that place, waiting was worth it. Waiting was worth it. God says over and over in His word that I am your exceeding reward. I am your exceeding reward. And it's very important to say this, because sometimes things don't play out the way you wish them to.
Yeah.
But if you got to a point where your motive and your desire has been stripped away from, I want fame, I want wealth, I want all of that, and all you're just like, what, God, I just want to live for you.
Yeah.
Whether I am at the forefront being known by everyone, or I am somewhere hidden and nobody might know my name on this earth, if you know my name and you approve of my journey, that's enough. That's enough. And so as you go through your waiting season, one of the things that must be foremost on your mind is that, where is my heart? Is God truly my exceeding reward? In short, I would give you a question that is very valuable. If God comes today, don't forget I said He's a sovereign God, right? If God comes today and says, you know what, forget about the previous prophecy. I want to take you to a place where you would never be known and you might never really have so much money, just enough to sustain you and your family. Would you be okay with it?
Wow, that's actually really
Would you be okay with it? And for me, this is a question to ask yourself regularly. Yeah.
Because we all want to be comfortable.
Exactly.
Even if we are not necessarily very rich, we just want to be able to, afford our needs.
Exactly.
Vacation here and there.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So this is that question that you ask, and it keeps you, it helps you check yourself. Where is my heart? Am I chasing the fame, the wealth, or am I chasing God? And it's a very hard question. It's a very revealing question. Sometimes you would have to literally cry out to God, but at the end of the day, if you become more like Christ, if you are seeing life in the lens and the perspective of God, then your waiting season was worth it. Yeah.
I think that question is really deep because whether we like it or not, as human beings, when we are doing certain things for God, there's somewhere in our hearts, even if it's not very big, somewhere in our hearts, we're like, okay, let me just do this because at the end of the day, I would have certain things. But what if it's just for the sake of love? What if it's just because you love him?
So
that's why you are doing. I think that's something to ponder about.
Yeah.
Like, even after this, I'm very sure my viewers would have a rethink because we are quite selfish many times because we do certain things because we want something back. It's more of a transactional, and we actually even translate it to even our relationship with man. I mean, if you're not giving me something back, then I'm not also giving you. You don't call me, I don't call you. You don't text me, I don't like some sort of competition. So that's actually very important. So I told you guys that my mentor does not play. By the time you are done with this video, you said when you go back to God, it will be different. So thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
I don't know when next we'll do another video. Maybe I'll pay for your flight.
I love it.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I'm very sure that this blessed you. And please don't just watch it alone. Someone else needs to be blessed. So please share this, subscribe, talk about it. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.